Today in crypto, the markets are getting crushed with the global economy on the brink of insanity. Is it time to panic? Or is it time to buy more Bitcoin? Or maybe it's just time to chill? Well, that is a tough question to answer, and of course there are a lot of moving pieces, but one thing is for certain is that these are exceptional times and no one really knows where we are headed next. But we're going to try to break down a little bit of how all this is affecting the crypto markets. The cryptolark, this is where you subscribe for all of the hottest and the latest happening in crypto. By the way, if you are new to crypto and if you're still trying to work out all the basics like how do you buy crypto, where to buy it, how to send it, where to store it, and all of those beginner questions, then check out my course, Cryptocurrency Explained. It is specifically designed for beginners, those who are taking their first steps into crypto. There's a link in the description down below where you can learn more. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the charts before breaking down the big picture of what is going on. So the price of Bitcoin has gone down 17% in just the last few days, which, as you may remember from yesterday's video, is approximately around the line of support that we were keeping an eye on. While we have recovered a bit from that low, we are still seeing a lot of pain in the crypto markets, while the daily picture for Bitcoin is definitely looking grim at the moment. If we zoom out a little bit to the bigger time frames, we are still showing that overall the bullish trend is still intact. Looking at the monthly, we can see our uptrend is holding on just by a thread at the moment, but it is still holding on. Over on the weekly, the situation looks quite similar. Again, you can see that we are just on the razor edge of this trend line here. If we close candles below these trend lines, then that could be quite bad for the price of Bitcoin moving forward. We're still up 11% on the year though, so that's cool. But it's definitely good to see that for the moment, the price has defended these trend lines. So that's definitely a positive. Now back over on the monthly real quick, you can see we have got some good areas of support around $6,500 and $6,000. That's of course looking down quite a ways. But if we do see more negative price action, then we need to look at 7,650 as that line that could act as support again. Now that head and shoulders breakdown on the daily from yesterday, combined with really a lot of what I'm going to be discussing in today's video, could definitely send the price down further. So be prepared to see more trend lines being broken. Just remember, the trend is your friend until the trend steals your money, drinks all your beer, and sleeps with your girlfriend. Then the trend is a dick trend. Psh. Guy. Of course, one good bounce and all of this could just move us right back into greener pastures. We know Bitcoin has the ability to do those just kind of candles that just blasted up $1,000. But right now, the bears are in the driver's seat. Now, why is all of this happening? Well, a lot of it has got to do with the overall macroeconomic picture that we are seeing globally and the fear contagion that is spreading through the markets. The CBOE Volatility Index, or the VIX for short, colloquially known as the Fear Index, is a measure of implied volatility on the S&P 500. That indicator is trading at its highest levels since the 2008 global financial crisis. Let the seriousness of what I just said sink in. Levels not seen since the 2008 financial crisis. Now, of course, this indicator usually rises when stocks are expected to fall. So prepare for more pain in the stock market. The Bitcoin Fear Index also is down all the way at 17, showing extreme fear in the crypto markets. All of this just underlining really what the markets are showing us right now. Things are bad out there. In fact, things got so bad today they had to pause the US stock market for 15 minutes just to try to stop the bleeding as an emergency measure. US stocks have just suffered their worst day since 2008, and oil had its worst day since 1991. And we're not out of the woods yet. This is just starting to take off. But we can definitely see that now the birds of financial malpractice are finally coming home to roost. And oh, they are fat and bloated, corrupt birds. Now check out this tweet from my mate Alex over at Nuggets News. In the tweet, he says stocks are down by 25 trillion in the last weeks. Bonds are up by 25 trillion. Gold is up by $1 trillion. We can see here that investors are fleeing risky assets. They're going after those safe plays. They're going after bonds. They're going after gold. I mean, it's crazy. Even though bond rates are plummeting and more than a quarter of bonds have negative yields, they're still piling into them. Now, in this same time, Bitcoin has also lost around $50 billion in market cap, which is quite significant. But as a percentage, yes, it is bigger than the other markets. But that being said, Bitcoin is still up 11% this year. And it is important to realize that very little actual value has gone away from the Bitcoin markets. When again, we take a look at that bigger picture. The drops in the traditional markets, they are just many magnitudes bigger, hundreds of times greater than the value that we see being wiped out in the crypto markets. So that's just something for you to keep in mind when you're thinking about how all these different markets are moving. Now, also to point out, just because we have seen brutal drops, that does not mean that we are not going to see more pain. More pain across all markets is looking increasingly likely, due largely to the Mexican beer crisis. The entire country of Italy just went into quarantine. Yes, literally the entire country of Italy just got shut down. Israel just announced that all international arrivals will face a 2-week quarantine. These are extreme measures, and other countries will follow those extreme measures. This is an economic black swan unfolding right before our eyes. History is happening today. Now, the knock-on effects of this all for the global economy obviously are going to be severe. And as the economic situation worsens, just think of how many businesses are going to have to shut down. How many employees are going to get laid off? People are going to be scraping by just to make ends meet, to get those necessities for their family. They're going to be struggling to pay the rent and the car bills and all that stuff. Exotic spends like traveling, going to be totally out of the budget. Now, this crisis, of course, if it gets much worse, could destroy another entire generation of new job seekers, just like the 2008 GFC did, and make, of course, people's retirement much less certain for the older generations who are over-leveraged into stocks and things like this. Maybe, though, everyone will have more time to watch YouTube videos on Bitcoin and get educated on crypto, and of course to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. They'll have time for that, I'm sure. But in a lot of ways, the markets are still underestimating the severity of this whole Mexican beer thing. Millions of people could die. That's insane. Health systems globally could get overrun. That's mind-boggling. The global economy could enter a state of total paralysis and enter a painful multi-year recession or even a depression. But there is one thing I want you to not worry about. The banks. I know you're worried about the banks, but it's okay. They're gonna get bailed out again if they get in too much trouble. Heck, this time they might even be allowed to steal the money right out of your bank account thanks to the bank bail-in laws. How good will it feel to know that even though your kids are going hungry tonight, that the banks are going to be able to pay off their bad debt and give big bonuses to their CEOs. Love it. And of course, you have to remember that if you want to withdraw your cash from the bank, no. That makes you a criminal, because only criminals want to hold large amounts of cash. That's why you need to leave it safely with the definitely not criminal banks. Okay, jokes, but this situation, it has such far-reaching consequences, and of course the cascading effects, you can really see them starting to take hold. Now, we see a real microcosm of this kind of happening in crypto. Obviously, there's been massive sell orders happening on exchanges over the last couple of days. We're talking multiple $100,000 or more lots of Bitcoin, just boom, 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 boom. This is not you and me dumping a little bit of crypto. These are whales either acting maliciously to push the price down, desperately trying to leverage the fear of the market in their favor, or of course just the tough reality is that some of these whales, they themselves are just way frickin' over leveraged, and that they are needing to sell huge amounts of crypto to cover their butts in all kinds of different markets. I'm sure these guys are not just in Bitcoin, but even then they might just be over leveraged in the Bitcoin markets. Because you have to remember that while whales are not your friends, whales are still susceptible to the same mistakes that anyone else can make. Now expand that out to the trillions upon trillions moving in traditional markets, and you start to get a feel for what is happening. Anyway, even though everything is getting crushed today, I think that crypto is uniquely poised to emerge from any kind of global economic winter as a long-term winner. Just remember that the tools to fight this crisis, they're going to be the same ones as they have always been. Print more money, cut rates, give that printed money straight over to the banks so they can front run you. These, of course, being the very banks who helped to create the crisis. In fact, the market is already pricing in inflation and more rate cuts as a certainty. And no, the Mexican beer thing is not the reason for the crisis in its entirety. It was just really the match that lit the house of cards on fire. The current crisis is based on the simple truth that the prices of the markets around the world have been vastly overvalued due to the sickness of free money, and that the last decade of central bank monetary policy has basically focused on keeping this bloated monster on life support by feeding it money. The truth is that the 2008 financial crisis, it was never properly dealt with. It was just papered over. But the cracks are still there, and they're getting more apparent every day. Remember the repo crisis? That thing I talked about so much last year? That's still happening. That was the canary in the coal mine. Well, you know what? That bird is cooked, man. Quack, quack, mother duckers. It's judgment day for the banks anyway, and the global economy. Look, one thing is for certain. Crypto has yet to experience a crisis of this magnitude, a crisis that threatens the entire global economy and one that could define a generation. And at the forefront of that newly defined monetary paradigm could be crypto. A parallel money system that is completely removed from the corruption of the banks and the corruption of the traditional markets. The trust in that system, it is eroding. People can see it more and more all the time when they get hit by the economic bus of reality pretty soon. They're going to take even more attention. And look, we may see some big hits coming in the few months as this Mexican beer thing turns into a real Black Swan event. The long-term prospects for crypto, though, in a financial crisis could be very good. So definitely keeping my optimism up here. And to answer your question, is it time to panic? No, panic never helps. You have to be aware of the dangers and act accordingly with a sober mind. It's getting pretty bad out there, but that is not a reason to panic. That is a reason to stay focused and stay diligent and make good decisions. So is it time to buy more Bitcoin? It's always a good time to buy more Bitcoin. Come on, of course that's what I was going to say. It's the CryptoLark channel. What do you expect? Look, the Bitcoin halving is getting closer and closer by the day. Long-term thinking here is important. This is a short-term economic event, and it'll be just that, and that could be a couple of years, but long-term thing, we're talking about a decade. The market gives you these opportunities from time to time. It is up to you to use those opportunities when you're presented with them. Lots of people out there were crying that they missed cheap Bitcoin, and if only they'd had a chance to buy cheaper Bitcoin. And of course, now when given that chance to buy cheap Bitcoin, they lose their nerve because fear takes over. Bitcoin requires a steady hand and lots of patience. Many people will get shaken out. They're going to buy high, sell low. This is a game of steady survivors. Dollar cost average in, play that long game. Remember why we're here. Anyway, Those are just my 2 Satoshis. I would love to know your opinion on today's video. Do you think that as the crisis continues to unfold, that Bitcoin will go lower? Do you think that Bitcoin will actually stand up well in a time of extreme financial crisis? Curious to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you're having an awesome day wherever you are. Make sure to stay safe and to wash your hands, everybody. Wash your hands, important stuff. And of course, while washing your hands, then click the like button. That'd be super awesome. And subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Long live the blockchain. And peace out till next time.